we can actually make it look more complicated. If we go too slow, it seems very simple, but making collections in Galaxy. Again, I'm going to try and keep the pace minimal, like medium, so that you can, those who are just starting off can follow, but if it is too slow for you, you may go ahead and finish it on your own. Okay, so can you think of why one would want to make a collection? It is a simple answer. I just want you to answer. What is a collection? What do you think we would call it if it was on your desktop?
Directory or folder.
Directory folder, but what would you call it? Are there any other words that you can call it? So if I have a collection of FASTQ files, sorry? If I have a collection of FASTQ files like samples, and I put them all into a directory or file, right? And maybe I've got a SARS-CoV sample from the Gambia that I want to compare to Tunisia. What do you think I would call? What is another name that you hear often for collection? Huh? It starts with a D.
Database.
The first part, data set, right? So a collection in Galaxy is basically the same as having a data set. That could be anything that you imagine it to be. It could be comparing a resistant strain to a susceptible strain. It could be comparing one country strain to the other. But a collection is a way of grouping all of your samples into a data set. So, in Galaxy, fortunately, you can do two things at once. If you've got, for example, an Illumina dataset, and you want to, so firstly, why would you even want to put them in a dataset? For those of you who have worked on the command line before, maybe it would make sense why you would want to put it into a dataset. What would be different to having it in a dataset and having it in terms of analysis?
It's easier to reach happen. It's easier to when you have them organized into data sets, it's easier to reach than people.
Okay. Yes, so for organization, for accessibility, it's easier to find what else. If I have a tool and I have 10 samples in there, why would having them in a data set be beneficial?
Run them all at once.
You can run them all at once, right? You can do it instead of doing it one by one on an analysis, the analysis on one file at a time. If possible, if the tool can accommodate it, because not all tools can, you could direct it to a directory and say process or run this analysis on all the files in there. So that would be one reason why you want to put them in a database besides organization. So in Galaxy, you can do two steps at once. Now, you've already downloaded all of these datasets in a zip file. Previously, we saw how to import data from a URL. Now you're going to see how do you import data from your local machine. So let's make a new history, because you're gonna work on a different dataset or different sample or do a different analysis. So you want to create a new history. Where would you go to create a new history? Plus. Okay, so create a new history. Call it something intuitive. So these are cholera samples. So you could name it. Remember, here by the edit, name it something intuitive like cholera data set. And remember, we use underscores or something to make sure that there are no spaces between the names. Now, one thing you can also do, and this is not in the notes. So maybe if you are following the notes, just pay attention here now. Sometimes you are processing, especially if you're doing something like RNA-seq. Who's done RNA-seq before? RNA-seq analysis. You would have you're doing a differential analysis, right? So you maybe have your control samples versus your treated samples. To make sure that they're not just, because you would have them in the same history, but you can use a tagging system. If you look at this button over here, it says tag. So you can actually add a tag to your data set to make sure. So let's say these are the treated samples. You could write treated, and you could tag this as treated, and you can use multiple tags if you wanted to. So if this is treated cholera from Zambia, you could use multiple to distinguish it from here. Now here it may not make much sense because and in this case we are tagging the whole data, the whole history. That doesn't make sense. I'm gonna delete it. But let's see how we can use this tagging on your data set. So I want you to import the data that you've downloaded earlier from Zenodo, that is on your local machine. Can you figure out how to import it into this new history that you've created? Where would you go? Upload, and then paste and fetch data. Choose local files because it's on your local machine. So now you're not going to use this one. By the way, there is a Galaxy hackathon happening at the moment. There are funny things happening with Galaxy. If you can see, like icons are weird. I don't know what people are doing, but just be aware there is a hackathon. They've warned that it may be slow, that things may be funny, unfortunately. So just so you go to choose local files, and then you go to the zip file that you've downloaded, and you import all your samples from there. Now I should have probably downloaded it to show that, but I didn't do that. So I am just gonna go here and so you should be able to go choose local files and then select with holding the control down all the files that you want to, and then click on open and upload it. In your case, I'm going to do it differently because I didn't.
Tracey, yeah, those of us downloaded it as a zip file from the Zenodo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so should we upload the zip file or we should unzip it?
I think it's going to ask you to select. Oh, just click on upload.
Yeah. So this was a zip file.
No, so unpack the
It's locally
extract
okay.
all of the files from your zip file so that you can see all of them. Everybody's uploading to click start there. Otherwise it won't. Did you so you need to be on. So we are now on the collections tutorial on the website. Remember, you tried to do this and you couldn't download. So, but you did you eventually do the same as me and copy this. Now you can actually place this one by one. But just so you know, so one of them is downloaded to your machine. If you wanted to, you would go upload, choose link, and then obviously you do this. But you're not going to do that. So unfortunately, those who couldn't, is yours working? Yeah, delete that one. You can close that part. So unfortunately for me and Dafa, who didn't upload it or download it, we have some extra stuff on our file names. So you could, if you wanted to, you could go, like I said previously, there and change and delete all of that so that you don't have it in your file name. I would advise you to do that because otherwise your file's too long. But for the other guys, you shouldn't have this issue because you wouldn't have the download thing in your... Is yours still uploading, Dafa? So do you want to change your file names? Just delete all of this until the question mark so that just it ends in .gz. You should have, I think, 14 files, right? 16 files.
16.
Okay. What do you notice about the file names? Are there some common names or is each file name completely different to the other? Has all of you done a bioinformatics analysis before? Who has never done a bioinformatics analysis where they actually had their own original data? You had your own data and you had to start from scratch with that data. As in, you had to look at the data, look at the quality of the data, all of that, and not somebody just gave you data and said, this data's fine, just run an analysis on it. You got the data and you were solely responsible for all the steps of that data. So all of you have gotten data that was your responsibility. Okay. What's the first thing that you do when you get the data? I can't hear you guys. Check the quality. You check the quality. Before you check the quality, do you...
Check is so
Okay. So let's say you have Illumina data, right? You have Illumina peer data. What would you check about the data, about the files or the data? You said you check, you and Dafa, you check the file sizes. What else? Like what? Extension. Like I tell you, are they paired? That's what I. So one of the first things you're going to check if there's an Illumina files is do I have two files with the same name? Like, do I have pairs of files, right? And are they common? Is there something in common? Can I identify which one is the forward read and which one is the reverse read? What pattern is in there for me to check? What do you often see? What are some of the who's work with Illumina? Okay, half of you. What are some of the things that you see in the file name?
Yes.
Underscore R1. Okay, is it always R1?
Sometimes just one.
Sometimes just one.
Sometimes 001.
001, I've seen that. Sometimes an F and an R, like just to show forward and reverse. That one doesn't come across. I don't come across that often, but sometimes. Okay, so here the first thing that you would check is whether they are pairs, right? Then you would check the file size, like maybe not just the file size, but do the pairs have a similar file size? I mean, these are not complicated. These are things that you naturally do. You don't even know how you know it.
Yeah.
It's just logical. You do that kind of stuff. Okay. So here we see what differentiates the forward reads from the reverse reads. What's the pattern here? What is common in all the forward reads? Underscore 1. And the reversed most probably underscore 2. Okay. We need this information to build a data set. So if you look at this arrow, this little block over here, we're going to now create a collection. But because we have Illumina data, we also want to make sure that we pair the forward and the reverse. So you're going to click on this. Click on select all. Oh, this icons are, like I said, the hackathon is ruining all the icons here. I'm going to undo that again. You see this box is checked. Click on that to uncheck it and select all will appear. Click on select all and then click on the drop down by select all to click on build a list of dataset pairs. When you do that, this box will appear. If you don't see this block, put up a sticky note. A red one. If you don't see it, okay, you see it again. Okay. Now, again, the worst part sometimes is about clean data is that you don't learn much. Now, these are clean data, so Galaxy has automatically paired the forward and reverse reads here at the bottom. You can see it recognized. This is the file name, this is the forward, this is the reverse, and it did that for all of your things like that. But sometimes, and the only reason why it did this is because by default there's a -1 pattern here and a -2, and your files happen to have been named with -1 and -2. If it wasn't the case, click on this here that says unpair all. This on top, your files will actually appear here on top. And if you click on clear filters, you will see that it's not making any type of pairing over here. You would have to specify over here what it is. If you put in R1, nothing will happen because there isn't a R1, but there is an _1 and an _2, like we said, that separates. So if you put in the correct pattern, it will automatically put the two pairs next to each other. Then it's up to you to either click on these individually to pair them or auto pair, and they will pair all of them at the bottom. Now all of your forward and reverse reads are paired, but your data set is not created yet. You will have to go scroll down to the bottom and enter a name. So maybe call it a data set. You can leave the others and create collection. And this will now create a collection. What it says 8 pairs, and again you can click on it to open it up to see what's inside. I'm going to unclick this.
Tracey,
Hmm?
the pairing.
Okay, so for the pairing, you will have to click, there's a little box on top. Let me show you where it is in the notes. There's a box here in your Galaxy. A blue box, you can see it
Yeah,
stick.
it's highlighted.
Click on that to unclick it. Then you will see on the right hand side a select all will appear. Click on select all on the drop down and scroll to the bottom to where it says bulk list of dataset pairs. So when you unclick this, you click on select all here. On the side, there will be a drop down. Okay. Then yours should be automatically paired. At the bottom, you will see all the green ones actually push to the bottom. But if there wasn't a pattern, it will all be on top there. And maybe they will be mixed all over the place. You have to specify the pattern there. In your case, it's already specified, but sometimes it looks like this. And there's nothing happening there. Then you have to specify that all your forward indicators _1, and you can see it starts to separate all the ones there. But it's still not paired with that side. Here you will have to put _2, and you start to see that that gives you suggestions. You will have to kind of double check actually whether the suggestions are right. But you can either auto pair or you can click each of them individually. And you will see them go to the bottom. So now they're all there, and they give you your dataset collection name. No, you can. So dataset pairs. Yeah. So yours is all automatically done. But like I said, if the pattern wasn't correct, you wouldn't be able to do that. You would have to specify in there that there's a -1 in the forwards and a -2 in the middle. You automatically copy them on the top, and then you would have to make sure all. So name that at the bottom to cholera _dataset, and click on save cholera dataset. Cholera _dataset. And now you would have your first dataset in Galaxy with your cholera data. And I think this is going to be a nice short day. And the data set is done. So now you want to run an analysis. So we're going to go to the last tutorial, which is workflows. And we are going to build our own workflow using Galaxy. So you can build your own workflow, you can import somebody else's workflow, you can edit an existing workflow, and you can also share it like you did with the history. Okay, so again, when would you build a workflow? If somebody asked you to do an analysis on some fungus, right? It's just something of interest to them. you're building this, you're running fast queue, you're doing variant calling, whatever, 5, 6 different steps. And you're gonna run that, but this is just for hobby, right? So you've got all of your stuff in place. Would you create a workflow for that? What even is a workflow? Maybe we should start there. An analysis with multiple steps. Okay, so there must at least be 2 tools that you're using or 2 steps that you're making. In what case would you want a workflow? If you're going to use this once, no. So you would create a workflow if you know this is something that you do often, right? Or, for example, this is something that is very complicated. You know how to do it. You don't feel like explaining it to somebody else. You just want to build them a workflow, share it with them, and say, put your data set in here and run it, right? Either way, you do a workflow to save time and effort somewhere down the line in the future. Whether it's for you or you want to save yourself or somebody else from making errors. So you want to know exactly that person is using the right tools and you want to prevent any errors, you will build a workflow. Okay, so let's build a very simple workflow with this data set. We're going to run FastP. How do you run FastP on your data set? You should know, or you can figure out. FastP is a tool. So Islamia, in Galaxy, where do you find FastP? Do you remember? Okay, so go to your Galaxy. On this data set, you want to run the FastP tool. Right? Where would you find the tool, the FastP tool? Yeah, so search for FastP. FastP like this. Search for FastP and you're going to run your analysis on FastP. But what is the problem here now? Nothing has been selected. Before, when you chose your tool, it just automatically did an input for you. But if you look at the top here, you will see that it says your input is a single in, and you don't have that, so it didn't know what to add here in the box. Again, I'm so sorry about this. This is, at least the names are still the same, but if you hover over it, this says single data set, multiple data set, and data set collection. You made a collection, so you will have to change this here on top to paired collection, right? Now you see it's automatically selected for you. However, if you had multiple collections in there, like let's say you had a cholera, Kenya and cholera, Namibia, you would have to choose which collection you want to do it on. Okay, now follow the tutorial. It's under workflows on the website. On this pathogen genomics website, it will tell you here which parameters you need to add. Now we're not just going to run the tool on its own, we are going to add specific parameters to FastP. So add these parameters. If you can't see it on my screen, it should be on your, so you can see we want the frame quality 20. I think this is already filled in. So under filter options, it says quality fed. Where am I now? Disable quality filtering, no. Quality free 20 and unqualified percent limit 20. If this is too overwhelming, I normally just click on this box again to close it. So again, under filter options, there's a quality filtering button. You will have to open that to find the parameters. Yes, so under filter options, scroll a bit down. Okay, yeah. 20 and 20 for the unqualified pairs. Then it says you also have to scroll down to the length filtering options, which is the, I'm going to close this. So again, for those who want to see, I just click back on quality filtering to close that box so that there are not too many stuff open. And then I've opened length quality filtering to add length required is 50. This is automatically on no. And then a very important step. When you do bioinformatics, like I said, you always have to, you have to basically plan what you're going to do. You can find the nicest tool out there, but then you require a tool after that tool. There's no other tools that you can use, there's only that. And that tool requires a certain input format of your previous file. If that file that you used before that, the tool that you use, doesn't produce an output file in the format that your next tool will need, it's useless. Or you're going to have to write code to do conversions. In our case, the tool that we're going to use after this is multi-QC. Now, normally, you don't need this to also be in JSON format. You can understand the HTML report, but because we're going to put this into multi-QC, which requires a JSON format, we have to select this to yes. We change this to yes for the next part of this. When you're done with that, you can click on Run Tool. And you will see it will create an HTML report and a JSON report. Did you ask a question? Somebody asked them, said something?
I don't remember the other options.
Okay. You go to your
The first page.
I mean, I can show you here, but it's not done. Go to your, are you on the Sammy website? So over here, you should have it in front of, on your, that's on the, have this open so that you can follow along. It takes a while to run. done, if yours is done running, no, it's fine. It's going to change to yellow as opposed to no. You can, I see you guys all, a lot of you still have the box clicked. You can untick that blue box so that there isn't a, you see you guys have this, so you can see a box here next to it as if you're going to select files, but you don't want to, so you can just click on this so that that option is gone if you don't like it. Okay, whose FAST is done? I want you to analyze what you see in that file and tell me. There's a set of questions that you need to answer, again on the website. I'll get you now. Answer these questions about your FAST file.
Okay.
Oh, you didn't pay? No, you didn't have to do it. Yeah, that's fine. So this was the first step that we did. You have to click that, and it's a report. Then you click on this drop down to go to the shape data set table. You see it automatically so that it has a -1 and a -2, so it comes, if it wasn't, it would be up there, and it would no period. Then you have to just say,
So it will just generate two choose. So if you click right, then it will give you one each. You can see in one JPEG.
so you see that you just usually figure that way.
Yeah, so that's the each. You can choose which one. But obviously if you didn't tick that, it will give you that. But it's better to have both because if you don't know what you mix, or if you know you can mix them. Yeah.
And then you will see the whole
But I mean, you don't have to wait for it. You can go because remember this running on the cloud.
then search for fast speed. So if you didn't create the collections with your data set when you first uploaded, it will obviously look different when you try to run fast speed because you didn't pay and you didn't make a selection. So you have to do that part first. Okay. So now you see this says single Indian part, but you don't have your collection. So choose the right option and then follow it. And now
Regardless.
Got your file there.
follow this prompt.
Yep. Okay.
That line.
It's fine.
Looks good.
It's good.
And use it when you get home.
Okay. Does anybody know how to do this part after you have your data? You've generated how many output files? How many new output? 3, okay? So I said already the JSON file is going to be used for the next step. If you look at your HTML file, you'll be able to see when it finally comes along. That you have an individual output for each one. Okay? My questions here is, what do you notice about the samples under the general statistics section, etc., etc.? Now, I'm asking about the samples, but this is individual, so you can either look at these samples individually and answer that question, or you could run multi-QC that will group all of these together so that you have a summary or an overview of all of the samples together. So go to Galaxy again, search for multi-QC, and you will see it says aggregate the results, and it automatically, you have to choose. Wonder why this doesn't automatically. You have to choose the tool that you use to generate this data, and you used FastP. And again, this is, but you look for data set, and you will see it automatically selects. Look for data set collection, it will automatically populate it with a JSON report. Again, I'm just following the tutorial here. I see I actually didn't write about multi-QC, I should add that. Okay, so you don't need to add anything else. Run the tool. And then try and see if you can answer those questions.
You must select, click on that one.
Okay, whose multi-QC is running? Who's done? Who's just waiting for catch-up? Everybody to catch up. If you are done with the multi-QC, please answer the questions.
Running, yeah. So let's wait for it.
Or see if you can answer. See if you can answer. And see if you can guess which output file you even. You don't have to get it right the first time around. Sometimes you have a whole bunch of output and you click through every one to figure out which one is giving you meaningful, interpretable results. So you can click through your files, look at what's inside of there, and see which one you want to use. If your multi-QC is running, can you please put up a green sticky note?
Yeah.
Okay. If you have issues, please put up a red sticky note. Yeah, that's right. That's all.
Not running.
Just look. You know what? I think what you did was when you selected that, right?
I didn't click on it.
Got too many tabs open, that's why it's slow.
Is yours running? Oh, okay. By the way, just so you know, good thing I think came up. When you're building a workflow and you're in a hurry, you don't have, let's say you're going to present now and you want to build a workflow in the next 5 minutes, right? You don't have to wait for the one tool to finish to select the other one. Her FastP is still running. She can already tell it when it's done, run multi-QC. So you can actually search for multi-QC and it will anticipate what your output files will be from that, and you will be able to, so you can build your whole pipeline and run them as they go out. It's almost like you're literally writing a script and saying input of this goes into that, like that. You can build you don't have to wait for results. So
Tracey, can you explain maybe when
Just normal fast QC.
Okay.
Okay. In your case, yeah. Because it doesn't matter if this is. Yeah. In some way, okay, this is the worst example. But normally if you do like variant calling or what you did you select? When you did the fast QC, did you select the JSON file? As the difference between fast QC and multi QC. Fast QC is the actual running of a quality analysis on your dataset or your files. So it's basically saying, tell me what the quality of my data is, tell me what the lengths are of my reads, tell me what the GC content is, tell me how much ambiguous spaces there are, so in content. Tell me if there are adapter sequences, how much are the adapter sequences, what are the adapter sequences, what are the individual base qualities at each position or at multiple like bins of, and then also how much duplication is in my sample, for example. Multi-QC, you only use if you've got many samples. You will see the report now. And you don't, if you have 100 samples, I mean, you could if you want to, if you have a lot of time, you can click on the FASTQ result for each file. But multi-QC is a way to aggregate all of the FASTQ results so that you can, it structures the report in such a way that you can actually have an overview and instantly see that sample looks different to these ones. Why is that one different? Or, you know, like this one reads, this one seems way shorter than the others. Why? You will see now when we see it. But it's a way to analyze multiple samples in a summary form. But you have to first have some form of, in our case, we ran FastP, which is like FastQC, like a FastQC on your samples. Because for some reason, we haven't figured it out. There probably is a way. Maybe one of you have already done it. But FastQC with multi-QC gives issues. But if you do FastP with multi-QC, you seem to be okay. So FastP and FastQC is like the same thing, basically. It both tells you the quality of your data. Multi-QC aggregates the result of FastQC and of FastP, depending on which tool you ran before. But if you have a collection, then multi-QC doesn't work that great if you've chosen multi-QC. I don't know if I'm making sense. Okay, so we're pre-processing your data, right? So this is quality control of your data. You're pre-processing your data. You're gonna look at what your data looks like, and you're gonna do some type of analysis. So FastQC is basically a way to you can only view what your data looks like, but you can't process anything. You can't cut off bad reads. You can't do anything. You can only look at it. Okay. Then you get FastP, Trimble-Matic, for example, Trimble-Galore, I don't know what you guys use. Those ones, they do pre-processing of your data. So they will clean your data basically. Right? When you are done with FastP on your multiple samples, this one goes to multi-QC, and multi-QC will aggregate all of your samples together. Now, technically speaking, you can do fast QC and multi QC. But you haven't cleaned any data. So you're basically saying fast QC, but I want to see all of my data together. So I'm going to put it into multi QC. However, if your data, this is what we've observed, if your data isn't paired and in a collection, like paired, then it's fine to run multi QC after fast QC. But there's often issues, errors when there's paired and in a collection, when you want to run multi QC, which is why we chose fast P. Because firstly, fast P, you can both see your data and you can do processing at the same time. Why not? I mean, there's like 2 steps. Okay, so does that make sense? Or I can always explain it. Okay. Right, question 1. What do you notice about the samples under the general statistics? So we are now talking about your multi-QC report. If you look at your multi-QC report, what do you notice? I'm not going to open it because I want you to open it. Where would you go to open it? To look at the content of your file. Firstly, you've got 2 files. So which one will you even choose? The first, because the second doesn't even have an eye. But if you wanted to, you could open it and see what's in it. I mean, if you really wanted to, but let's not. By the way, if you click on it and you don't know, and you want to go back, that button. Okay, so open this file and tell me. Can anybody tell me what you're noticing? So I'm going to click because you guys don't want to answer. Does anybody have it open yet? Or is it slow?
It's okay.
Okay. Right. I'm going to open this up. So firstly, you can see that it is listing your 8 paired reads as together, right? It's doing a quality report for this together. You can see that it's giving you duplication, GC content. I can't remember what P it is. Huh? Adaptive content. What do you notice under general statistics? Is like if you were looking at that report and I wasn't here and you're not nervous about what you're going to say, and you're actually just looking at that report, are there any samples that stand out for you? 2? She says 2. Does anybody else find 2 samples stand out? More? Less? None?
I think 1.
1? We've got a 1 over here, got a 1, we got a 2. Okay. Okay, so we've got 1 and 2. Okay, so which one? Which one do you think stands out?
The first one.
What does it end in? What is the file?
The
file?
duplication.
Hmm?
The duplication.
Duplication?
Is
Okay.
high.
But it's very little, right? Like 0.1.
Yeah, like compared
Okay.
to the others.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
compared to the others. And then what
And
else?
then the adapter percentage. is
Adaptive percentage. No, that's it's still okay. And it can be chopped off. But there's something there that can't be changed.
Yes, the GC content.
The GC content. Okay, but which files?
Those 2.
2. Okay, which 2 do you sell?
the fourth.
The one we have the 4th and the 7th.
What is the file name ending?
Yeah, 61.
61 and
88.
88. What is wrong with it?
High GC.
High GC content compared to the others, right? So even if you didn't know anything about your sample yet, you would say, why is that GC content higher than the others? There's also, what do you see under filtered reads? So this is giving you the number of reads. Is it not weird that this file, is way longer than the others. Now I did that. Didn't I did subsampling, and that one already. So actually, this data set, there's a lot wrong with this data set. It's a preprint, and all of these samples were much bigger. And then I just did some subsampling on. So basically, I made them shorter so that they can upload faster. But this one was already quite short. This one was actually the original size. The others were reduced to 60% of the size. So that's why this one looks a bit different. But this one is actually a problem. If you have the original data set, this one is actually a problem, even though it has longer or more in it. If you have lots of samples, let's say you had 100 samples, you may not look at this block because it will be exactly the same thing as scrolling through each one of them and trying to find a problem. Then you may want to go here. And because here you can easily see these two are above the rest of the others in terms of GC content. Can you see there's two files, two that you guys recognize? They are about 60%. These are the two files, they are around 60%, whereas the others are around 50%. Okay? What do you think it could mean? This GC content. And do you know of anything that you could do to test what is happening? If you get a sample like this, Dafa, you once had a sample of SARS-CoV last time. And do you remember what we did? You don't have to remember, don't put you under pressure.
What I did?
What we did. You brought it in, your samples couldn't process, or something went whatever wrong. It was giving. What was the problem with your reads?
I think there was no, but we could not. I think we gave it a short time to run. Then the run was stopped before.
But you had some reads, I remember.
Yeah, we had, but then it was a mixture of.
You had a mixture. You
had
had
viruses and bacteria.
exactly. So this is likely contamination.
And more you mentioned, obviously the GC content were going to be.
Exactly. So you could see by the GC content that was a different species. Okay. So in this case, I'm not going to let you do it because this runs. One of the things that you can do. So last year we had a group here and a girl said, okay, we went to a course in Germany, and the first question they asked, which I thought was fabulous, the first question they asked them was, you're in an airport. I can't remember the exact situation with them. You're in an airport, there's something's happening. People are vomiting, whatever, they're isolating, you've got the red tape, nobody can leave, that procedure. You're stuck in the airport, and you are the person in charge of figuring out what this disease is, right? You take a sample, they bring all the stuff into you, your computer to do your analysis, your extraction and everything. You've got your nice haversack with all of your equipment in there. You isolate your stuff. Let's pretend it's CSI, right? Because everybody thinks that's how bioinformatics and stuff works. You've got your samples and you end up with this situation. You've now processed your data, you've sequenced it, you've processed it, and you see two samples don't look like the other samples. What can you do? Has anybody done analysis past this to figure out what you can do? Or how you should even think about the situation? Right? So the first thing you did, right, you said this is likely contamination. But now what type of contamination? How will I know what it is?
It's not contamination, but maybe it's something else.
It's still.
You were not.
But how do you find out what it is? Like let's say it's this exact situation. You have two samples with 60% GC content, and the others have around 50%. You know this is another species, not water. How could you, what could you check? What could you do? Okay, so you're not going to blast. It'll take forever, right?
Okay.
But you could run something called Kraken 2, which we are not going to do. If you're following the notes, we are not, I promise you, it ran for hours on a phone, but I did it for you. I'm nice. I did it for you,
Thank you.
and I just need to find it now, which is also a good time to maybe show you. Okay, if you want to look at one of your past histories, there is something here called switch to history. So basically, it's almost like CD, change directory into another. So you click on this and you can actually find, provided that you named it properly, you can find another history. So I'm going to select that. Just need to see where the one is that I ran. I don't know why all that is there. Okay, so I ran Kraken. So what I did was, and you can actually build this data set, this for future, but just not run it. Okay, so create a new history and call that history Kraken or Kraken 2. Okay, because I'm gonna show you how you can move data sets between histories. So you're gonna create a new history. And now the one that was let's take, I think I took 88. Just copy it so we're gonna, so that part you can do on your own. You can create a new history, call it Kraken. Then I want you to take the one that was a problem. I'm just gonna take this one read. 88, I'm gonna put it in the Google Docs for those who just take this one, paste it into your URL. I'm not going to click enter and it will download to your local computer because we're going to upload that to this history now. Okay, no, don't do that. This is what I wanted to show you. Okay, so you've named this Kraken 2. If you're there, or just Kraken is also fine. If you're there, that's fine. If you're there, put up your sticky note. If you successfully created a new history. Okay, now, okay, maybe I should have done that because you don't have it used. Into your old history, just to show you something. The one that you made, the cholera data set. Go here, go to the other history that you had, the previous one, the cholera data set, and this will populate here. I want you to click on, because I don't think you'll be able to open this. Let me just first check something because maybe it's possible that you could open.
Tracey, when is it appearing?
What is not appearing?
The Corella.
Okay, I'll get to you now. Just hold on to me. Just want to see if you could just.
Shouldn't see it.
Okay, I think maybe you can do it this way. I should play with Galaxy a bit now. Okay, what is not appearing?
It's supposed to be Corella. I did say.
I'm
But this one is this one 6 minutes ago. That's this one. Why is your multi-PC red? Okay, If you can't find the cholera data set, then let me do this over again. What we are going to do, I'm going to explain quickly what we're doing. Okay. Oftentimes, when you have a data set on your computer and you want to do an analysis on there, oftentimes you would reuse data in there to run a different analysis on there. You don't upload that file again to your computer. You just go to that directory where that data set is, and you copy it maybe over into a new file to do the analysis on there, or you may run it on it. But in our case, let's pretend that we wanna copy that into a data set that we want to copy that into a new directory. Our directory is called Kraken. We just created this. We're going to run this. What you can do is you can click on this little button. It's very small, but it says history options. If you click on that, you have the ability to show your different history side by side. It's actually the first option. It says show history side by side. Okay? You should have something here, possibly already, maybe your Kraken one showing. But we're gonna select a second history here. If you click on this block, find the cholera dataset and click on change selected, and you should be able to see your Kraken and your cholera dataset side by side. Yeah. So you can, in the one block, you can click to put Kraken in there, and in the other block,
You need to click switch to.
if you're able to see two views like this, please put up a green stick in a. Okay. This one and drop down. Yeah. So you've got this one good. You need to put in a one history for the C. So yeah.
This is a Colorado data set.
Okay.
Change.
So I hope it's clear what we're doing. We want to move data between two directories or two histories, and we want to be able to. It's almost like when you have your desktop open and your downloads folder open, and you want to drag something from your downloads onto your desktop or whatever file you want to. So we want to drag the file that we had an issue with that was highlighted with a high GC content. We're going to use one of those files, the one ending in 88, and we're going to drag it from the cholera into the Kraken so that we can do an analysis in the Kraken directory or history. So you can open this, I hope, because you can open this and drag it. That's not working. Okay. Click to switch to. That's what I was scared of. Because normally you have to have a single data set. So just checking to see if it could work. And then you're going to have to upload this again. I've pasted this just in case onto the NGS at the bottom. I've pasted this onto the NGS Bioinformatics Google Doc. Paste this into your URL so that it downloads. Dafa, you already have it. And you. Because you had an issue with downloading from Zenodo. So you can either look for the file or copy it again and put it in your URL and then download it to your, where does it go, downloads or something.
So where do you paste the file again?
So you just paste it anywhere in a new tab or something, just paste it into your URL. Click enter so that it can download to your computer.
It is downloaded already.
If it's downloaded already, make sure that you're in the cholera data set, because I want to show you something. Make sure you're in this one. So if you were here, you can click on switch to, here by me it says this now. Let me just show you. But you have to click on here to switch to, and it will switch to the right history. You can close this. Switch, and then you're going to upload that file that you just downloaded. Upload this file to, this is bad practice, but this is just kind of to show you. Upload it to this cholera dataset history.
Yeah, no, but click open. Load it. Close it.
Just going on.
No, you must upload it to the color of it. Remember she said you must load it to, so you press switch to. Yeah.
If anybody's stuck with that part, please put up your sticky note. The red one. No, okay, so I want to copy this problem file to the Kraken thing. But when you're in the switch histories, it doesn't seem to want to allow me to drag it across because it's paired as one data set. So I'm just showing what you would do normally if you have individual files and you just, so okay, maybe this is a good point because I do this and I don't know who else does it, but as soon as I upload files, let's say 10 files, before I make it into a collection, I copy that history so that I have the files single for whenever I need to use it in single format. Does that make sense to everybody? So I would go, if let's pretend these are all my data sets, I would go to copy this history and I would make a copy of all my files single before I make a collection for this situation. So that in the case where you want to reuse that files, they are not in a collection or something where they're unusable. So I do have it loose, but I don't want to. I should have it loose if I stick to my usual. Yeah, I have it loose here. But don't look at my history. You won't have the same thing.
When you finished your sequencing, you had a whole bunch of files. You had like 8 and 8, so there was a page.
Okay, so if you now have
But
your
one or two
you still have your histories in the middle, you will see that you have that file on top that you just uploaded
That's what she said.
to this cholera dataset history.
Yes,
Can everybody see that file on top? You can now, Dafa, are you following? You want me to explain what is happening?
No. The file I downloaded first.
Mm-hmm.
It's not giving the same name as the one that I'm downloading through the link pasted. So it's like two different.
Does it maybe just have that?
You see, the first one was this. And this one.
So this is a single file. That was a whole packet. This was just for that page that had an issue.
But they're almost the same size.
Yeah, so this was a different file. GC, that was like 60%. But this is a different file. No. So we have
And also there was only two that were the problems, so you can technically use it too.
it was,
This one
say downloaded 16
is the phone is
files that you can download.
Yeah. Because chances are if it's contamination it will be on top, right? Because they're the same sample.
so this is one.
like but if you wanted to be thorough, you could do 2. So yes, if you we are only uploading the forward here or the reverse, whichever you chose. And the question is, shouldn't we view it as a pair? It doesn't really matter because remember, if the sample was contaminated and you sequence it that way and that way, it doesn't really matter. They will both show that it's contamination. And the less work we can give ourselves with crafting, the better.
So now you download.
Yes, that's what I was saying. So it doesn't matter because it's contaminated both the forward and the reverse. Technically, if you're sequencing with one property, it would be almost equally contaminated, right? It would, yeah, it's just like there is some overlap, but it wouldn't really matter because you'll still be able to see what bag but if you wanted to be thorough, you could do both. It's going to take forever. And if you do find that you're not finding what you're looking for, you could check the other. Okay, so then we are going to take, is everybody here? You're going to take this and drag it over to your Kraken. You see? Why is this? Is this now the Galaxy Hackathon?
No, you need to scroll down. That's a wrong font.
I think it's her.
No, this is the Colorado.
No, but scroll down because that's 6250. Yeah, the 88.
You need to go back. History. No. On this.
Let me
Yeah.
choose this again.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Okay. It's still not. Okay, there you go. Okay, is everybody able to put the dataset, to drag the dataset over?
Yep.
You can then click on switch to at the bottom of the Kraken one to switch to the directory of Kraken.
So switch to. Oh, you are.
Try again.
One step.
Oh no, but you need to drag this one here. And then I click here. So this is the data set. So let's add this and let's select it. So let's this again.
Switch to.
Is it on there? So now I'm looking for this one. I have the same problem because I didn't see that with update for them. Okay, so technically speaking, you should now be able to search for Kraken 2. Kraken 2, not Kraken. Can't remember the difference. It's probably just updated. And you should be able to. The only thing is we're not going to do it because it will only save if you run the tool. And we're not going to run this tool, but I did put the instructions in there for if you want it, but we don't want to all submit this now to the Galaxy server and freeze up and then we can't do the next step. Because like I said, there's a hackathon happening as well. But I did put instructions in the last one, workflows. There should be instructions here for running Kraken, and I did say it takes very long. So you would obviously in this case select a single read because and it automatically falls in the one that you want to run it into. You then change the parameters. I just left it on default 0.1. By default I mean the default one that I took from a tutorial. It's on 0 in your thing on default, so that would be on 0.1. Here by the confidence.
Please, is that single read or one sample?
Yeah.
Which one is?
The single read.
Forward only.
Hmm?
The other forward only or
The single.
So you choose either.
Yeah.
Or the reverse.
No, you was
Well,
choosing
you
one that
yes, you
gave
only
it.
uploaded.
So she chose this one because the GC was 60%.
Yeah, but then that's the whole sample.
You can choose forward or reverse. Did you upload the reverse? But I sent the forward in the NGS. Oh, because you have. Are you in your Kraken history? No, she's actually asked. But in your current history, right? You shouldn't have the option. Yes, technically speaking, you're asking, does it matter whether we take the forward or reverse? No.
Or both.
Or both,
Okay.
but it will run long. But at this stage now, you're only seeing one, right? The forward. Okay. Now, okay, let me answer that generally because 4 people have asked it now. It doesn't matter if you take the forward or the reverse, and even if you do both. That is a sample that was contaminated, which means its forward and its reverse read will be contaminated. So it doesn't matter. If you want to be thorough, you could do it on both, but like I said, Kraken runs exceptionally long. So I would only do it on the other one if I'm not getting anything that makes sense to me and I want to check the other one also, but I would select either one of the two. So yeah, so basically you would fill out this here. And this is important, you want to print the aggregate of the counts. And you have to select the database. I normally take the most recent standard one. I think it was 20. So this one, 2021. And like I said, under create report, change this to yes for aggregate. Do not run the tool. Please. You can do this some other time. I just wanted to show you how to run the Kraken, and then I'm gonna go to my. How do I go to my history? To a different history. Switch to history, and I can select. What?
Yes, we start.
I think he has a question.
Go back
Run
and
to.
check Kraken.
Run to. But I'm not running.
No. Okay, before that. Before.
You wanna look at the parameters.
The database, how do you use this?
Oh, the database is at the bottom here. Select the Kraken 2 database.
No. Before that.
Before that.
Just the 0.1
How do you get to the
confidence.
Like, I think.
Are you asking how you got to Kraken?
How we go to
You search for the tool Kraken 2. And then you select. You can just type Kraken 2, then you won't even get the other option. So remember, this space here is where you would go to find tools on your computer if you were running it.
My question would be on the confidence. Like, how do you know which number to?
It's the same like with everything else. This comes about by people just playing around with it, seeing what options work. This was just the default one which I left it on. Obviously, if you increase the confidence level, it will run longer. But it's generally accepted that this 0.1 on default is fine. But it's going to be exactly the same as with everything else when it comes to quality control. There's a level of your kind of your own, well, I don't know if you can call it opinion, but like you would suss it out based on your data. If you already have like really bad quality reads and you don't want to lose most of it, you may use a different quality threshold than somebody else who already has good reads and wants to make it super squeaky, beautifully clean. So it's going to be like that. You will probably look at a tutorial where somebody has run it on your specific sample and then see what they have. Because I think some people get a kick out of that. They actually like to play with tools see how it changes, whatever, and they come up with a solution. But I left it on what was by default in other tutorials, which is 0.1. If you open this up, it's on 0. I just put it on 0.1. But the database I chose, I'm taking the standard look. I actually didn't run mine on standard. I'm telling you to run it on standard. And I'm telling you because I took this RefSec one that has like a whole bunch of more databases. So it's obviously, these are databases that it's going to check your sequence against, right? It's going to go, these are databases full of sequences like BLAST. We're going to check what your sequence is closely related to, and we're going to tell you what species this is. I didn't explain what Kraken does.
Yeah, that was my own sorry.
But you of all people should know because we ran Kraken on your data set, your contaminated data set. That was you. So Kraken is like so with RefSec they've got even more. So if you know that, if you have an idea what you think your contamination is, like you know your body went to the toilet, didn't wash his hands, and you kind of you had an E. coli bug or something. You may choose only maybe to run it against bacteria database, and you would choose a bacterial database to run it against. But if you don't know, you choose everything because you don't know. So the standard one is kind of everything. This one, RefSec, from far as I've read, I've added now additional ones. It ran on this 5.8 megabyte thing like for probably 5 hours or something. That's why I say don't submit it. But your result will come out like this. If I can find the correct one now. Okay, so you will have a classification report. It's not this, yeah. I don't use this one. Because I kind of, yeah, I prefer. But what you can see here is that it. Where's my stuff? No, maybe I am on the wrong one. Yeah, this is the one. Okay. So, thank you. You can see that it's trying to classify what it is, but if you look at it carefully, you see that has anybody worked with cholera before? Yeah? Okay. But you can see this is Aeromonas species, and then if you look, 12% of this really is actually cholera. The rest is a different species, and if you do,
Not cholera,
Vibrio cholerae. If you actually do a quick Google search, you will see often a false negative. Yes. So this is a common thing where people would. This is a classic example of somebody doing only a gram stain or something, and not doing some type of antibody test or whatever to check further other tests to see what's happening. And a second, so that's on the lab side. This is why quality control is important. Somebody didn't do more additional tests. They saw gram-negative rods, yeah, cholera, classified as that. Then it went to the bioinformatics side. I know who these people are. They didn't do further checks either. They submitted, this is a preprint. This is cholera apparently. This sample has been uploaded as cholera. They didn't do a further check like Kraken when they probably didn't even do a fast Q, because if they had done any form of fast QC or any, they would have noticed that sample's GC content is not similar to the others. And then they didn't do another step to see this is erroneous, and then probably didn't, because they didn't do that, they didn't see this is a common false negative or false positive for. So this is an example of, again, you have to do quality assurance. Don't make a fool out of yourself by having your sample become training data, right? Where somebody needs to make an example of your data. So Kraken, don't run it, but it's very useful and it does a nice job of telling you what exactly went wrong. Okay. Now, let's look at how you would turn this into a workflow. Okay. So obviously, if you were to do this on your own, you may want to put Kraken into the history where you actually had, like you call it a dataset history, right? I just did it separately because I wanted to show you how to do different analysis and how to drag things apart. But in this case, you would put Kraken as your next tool. So after running FastP, MultiQC, Kraken, right? And then you would create a workflow from that. Now in our case, we have that missing, but we can always, that's part of what we can do. So let's go to our cholera dataset. If you're not already on it, I'm going to delete this file because it was only used for the purpose of showing something. So this last file that you uploaded doesn't really belong there. Remember, it's already in this dataset. Are you guys following what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. This last one that you uploaded, delete that one because it doesn't belong with that dataset. It was just used for demonstration purposes. Now, can you create a workflow out of that, please, and call it cholera workflow or something? No, not the Kraken one. The cholera dataset one. So, do you remember? Click around on the buttons and find how to create a workflow. You could even go back to the last tutorial to find it. So we want to create a workflow from here. If you can't remember, look at the previous tutorial. Must I give clues again?
No, I'm asking the name.
You have to decide.
Anything.
Well, it's going to have to be something that if you were to click on your workflows button, you will know exactly what analysis it is. So you need to name it something that makes sense to you. So if you want to do like cholera pre-processing reads or something like that, you know, like, or you even could list the tools if you wanted to, FastP and MultiQC on cholera. Yeah, there we go. That's perfect. Okay, so do you remember something called extract workflow? If you click on that drop down button, if you wanted to create a new workflow, could you find it there? So create a workflow is actually extract workflow. You will extract that, and Dafa gave a nice example. She said she's just going to color a QC. Right? You could name it something intuitive, and then click create workflow. Now, remember I said, if everybody's got this, do you remember where to find your workflow? Go find your workflow. Is mine the only one that looks like this, or do all of your buttons look funny?
Mine looks
No, mine's okay.
Yours is fine, and yours is showing a play button. Okay, that should have a button, a play button by you. By me, it's some funky something. Okay, so you could, if you wanted to rerun this workflow, you could click on the run workflow, but I would suggest you only do that if you're already in a history with files that you want to run this workflow on. So you would have to create a new history, put all of your samples in there, and then go to the workflows button and click run workflow so that it can run it on the new data that you put in there. So in our case, we don't want to do that, but we did notice that we didn't have Kraken. So we're gonna, if you look at view, click on the, click on edit, sorry. If you click on the workflow on top and then you click on the name of the workflow that you just created, and you go down to the bottom, the first one I think that says edit, you should see this view that shows you what you did, what your workflow looks like. You have a dataset collection as input. It feeds that into FastP. Now you can here also click on FastP.
Please,
Hey.
mine is empty. Maybe I didn't get it when I was
So export, extract. So extracting workflow. So you have an existing.
none of them is showing.
I think it's just.
What is the problem?
Just 2 steps behind you.
Oh. Okay, we're just gonna wait.
I think it extract, but you want to extract more things. Yes. Well, there's only one product. So this one to create. And this can have a color.
We are going to because we didn't have. So this is just a way to get your workflow, but you can also use it to edit the workflow. So in our case, we are going to now add Kraken to this workflow and
Oh,
save.
no, that's why.
But the problem is that
So this was the
so
one that
it
you
won't.
believe is
This is just a demonstration of how you can add it, but in this case it's not a good idea because obviously you don't have the single ones. But what you
So
can do,
what she did
you
was she
could
made a
add
copy.
another input to this, but that will complicate it. This is just an example, but it's not a bad. You're right, it's not accurate.
This is the one.
Yeah.
You can also use one more in this in the galaxy.
Okay, so let's pretend that we wanted to add another tool here. After we do the multi-QC, we want to be able to run Kraken on the dataset that was showing us a high GC content. You could search for Kraken here and then just click on it and it will add the Kraken tool into your space here, your workflow space. However, nothing is connected to Kraken.
Oh, they
Extract this script.
That is why they would do
I think you put that.
You have to run.
unknowingly make
So on this, I suppose
Oh, it's showing
you
you the whole.
can have code in there. You could write maybe something that's in your workflow that you put in position there after the multi-QC that says check the multi-QC file, find the data,
So I think she wanted to
push
put
that
this
into the
across.
cloud. But there isn't a tool that can put into that check.
This is a problem.
and it's not linked to any.
Yes, Kraken.
So I think she wanted to put this across. I think this is just showing you how much stuff is
Are you on the? Did you click the?
It's not here.
The one that says you must go to the train. I actually haven't checked if everybody is on. I will have to check during that. Okay, but it's too late now. But
It's like this in the paper.
okay, let's just do the last step so that we can go on lunch. So you can see that we've searched for Kraken, we've added it. But Kraken is kind of just like hanging there in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't know what to receive as input. In our case, this is just an example because remember we saw previously that we couldn't put the paired collection into Kraken, right? So, this is just to show you how you would do it. If you had a different input here with all your individual files, and obviously you wouldn't do it, you wouldn't add Kraken to this anyway because you'll have to select the dataset. But let's say, for example, you had all your dataset not as a dataset but as individual files. You would drag this into the input. It's actually quite, it's like playing. I think it's fun. So you just drag this to here to connect it to Kraken to tell it Kraken will have to find the dataset there. And obviously from Kraken you could also drag the input to some, so you can build a whole workflow saying this is the input for this, and then the output of this goes to this, you know, but in our case, obviously it's not going anywhere.
Yes, you can undo and do it again. Because mine is not doing.
Your laptop is always doing it wrong.
So you do
You
like
just have to click.
running it here.
Technically speaking, you should add Kraken. I wonder if I can undo this.
And this is
You need a mouse.
And then when you click on that gives that will link to something else if you want to do it. Now you can make it smaller. Yeah, that's fine. Click on that. Remove it.
So you after connecting it to here, you can click on Kraken, and you can actually do this with any of these tools. If you wanted to in your workflow change any of the parameters that exist in here, you could do it. You could click on Kraken. Remember this Kraken we didn't set up, so you should here change your confidence level, change the report like we did earlier, select the database. I'm just doing this fast, I know, but you've seen this before. I'm just selecting. So anyway, I've just filled in the parameters that we previously had on Kraken. And then you click on Save Workflow, and you would have successfully modified your workflow to now include Kraken. Again, this is not accurate because this is taking in the data collection, whereas you want an individual file, but this is just to show you how you can, if you've done your workflow and you saved it, and you realize afterwards, oops, there's a step that I forgot in between two tools or at the end, and you want to add, you could add all of the tools afterwards, including changing the parameters if you found out that you've put in the incorrect parameters, or you're no longer taking a data set, but you're taking a single file. You could change all of the stuff that you previously. Okay,
what did you put on the database?
just the standard 2017 one, 2021.
Who's the one for the client?
And of course, you can, just like with the history, you can share the database with someone by clicking on share. And if you are very brave, you could make it publicly available so that anybody can run your workflow. If you're confident that everything is, you're now a bioinformatician and you want to also be useful to the Bioinformatics Society, you're generous, you can publish it, make it publicly available, and you can also send it to an individual person.
Are you sharing the workflow? No. Which one?
But as Mary's highlighted earlier, if the person is not registered on Galaxy, you can't send the person, put the person's email address in there. Okay, so then you can also export your workflow. So again, if you're in your workflow, the same place where you edited, where you viewed, you can delete, you can rename, you can download, you can export. And it will export in a JSON file, or you can download, or you can create an image if you want to publish your workflow. If you have now made a paper like that guy that from Canada that made a machine learning one, he actually exported his pipeline like this as an image, SVG, which is nice. And then, yeah, you can use it for publication purposes. You click on the, just trying to go back. You click on the workflow, and then you click on export. So you go to workflow, you find the workflow, you click on export, and then you can download the workflow, create an image, you can download it. I've actually never checked what this GA. For the everything. Okay, so you can share it with somebody, you can keep it for yourself, you can create an image. And then the last thing I want to show, and then I think we can go lunch and we can probably end early for today. I just want to show you that you can, remember I said earlier, if you're brave enough, you can publish your workflow, and you laughed at me. There are people who are braver than us. They have published their workflows, and we can actually import their stuff. Hopefully we'll get to that confidence level. But if you go to workflow, firstly, before I go on, did everybody understand what we did before? That you can create a workflow, that you can edit it, everything about it. You can edit what it's taking input from, where it sits between the tools, you could put it in between different tools, you can change the type of input, literally the same way that you would do it if you are in your history. And you can save it and you can export it and in various ways. If you, what is the issue now?
That image you showed earlier,
Yeah,
the one that shows
the SVG.
the way the workflow is looking. Spot.
Oh, you say you prefer this? No. I always this view.
Yes, but then when I export it.
I have never done it. Let's see.
No, I'm sure.
The one
As
you
a
can
publish
download.
I'm publishing in the paper, for
The SVG one.
example.
Maybe it's the one, maybe you can first show.
So
Yeah, it's the SVG one.
the SVG one, you didn't like it. So if you go export, and then you get create image here, we're talking about this one.
That's a big channel.
That's the one I showed earlier. If you don't like that format,
Once you're able to create SVG image, please check workflow.
really? Are you saying that even though the option is there, you can't actually? But that's right. Where is the actual save button? I've never. that is actually interesting. Let me write to them.
Yes.
It does say download, but there isn't a option to download. Let me see if you go to the.
If you use the menu at the top of your browser, does it have an option to save?
For the
When
export.
you're looking at the image,
And then which workflow you
right in the top corner of your browser,
This.
no, the one next to it. Yeah.
Oh, you mean save it from here? Yeah. Let's see, but this well, let's not save the whole page.
I just want to see if it will save, gives you the option to save as an image file. If you click on the save page as,
So this one. This one.
Yeah, and I just want to see what options it gives you.
Yeah, that's right. There we go. Thank you. So you can save it here as a SVG. But that's kind of stupid that they made it like that. But I'm gonna write to them and ask if you can give the options in the. Okay, so let's see if I save this as cholera.
But you wait for this to complete.
Not a capabilities, otherwise.
Yeah. So nice SVG for you to put on your huge billboard when you're driving on the in for everybody to see your work.
Oh no.
Can you explain it in short?
Short, no.
I'm not sure why we're trying to. If you have a different tool that's running, does it affect having this image? Or you can only save this image if that workflow is not running?
Oh, you mean this isn't? But did you extract your workflow?
No,
You can only see it if you extracted it. So it can be running. If you can save it, if you can extract it while it's running and save the workflow, then you should be able to see it. But if you haven't created the workflow, you won't see this one. So she has to first extract and then go to the workflows to find the workflow that she just extracted.
So she can have other workflows running in the background and still be able to extract. Okay, gotcha. So maybe that was the problem.
Okay, what did you, Nafa, what did you say you wanted from the start again? You're always telling me from scratch. From which scratch?
Explain short. No, just in short. Like short.
But what must I explain in
Because
short?
the thing is, for me, I was expecting it to be one way, one direction. Now you see, from input, there's another, there are two. Mine has two inputs. Yours, let me explain. Let me now ask from yours. That's input.
Yeah, this one. Did you have two inputs? If you have two inputs, then in your workflow you have put two inputs. So you can remove it. You can delete the second input, and then you will only see one input. So if you go to edit to workflow. Yes. You, what do you want? Oh. You.
Yes, we can take lunch and then meet. Starting at 1, yeah.
I'm busy.
Wait for her. I think she's finished.
Imagine my cholera. There's nothing. That's what I'm saying.
You edit this, right?
There's nothing there.
Then this is an empty one.
No one is
this one.
underneath.
You can delete this one. This one. Okay, so
I think she's almost
you
finished.
will have to. Let me just get rid of that so you can see it. You have a whole lot of formula quality. Oh, but because you've done the other one twice, right? You didn't create. Every time we said make a new workflow, you didn't make a new workflow. So yours is all combined. Okay, so you can leave it as is because you've got a nice long workflow.